There are 2.2 billion people on Earth right now who do not have internet access. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has launched over 10,000 Starlink satellites into orbit and currently provides internet to 10 million customers in more than 100 countries. He has already given internet to the ocean, to airplanes, to the Antarctic, and to a moving Tesla in the middle of the Australian outback. So naturally, the next logical step is to give internet to a place where absolutely nobody lives, nobody has ever asked for it, and the nearest potential customer is 384,400 kilometers away, the moon. What if Elon Musk, the man who already owns the internet in space, decided to put a Wi-Fi router on the surface of the moon? How much would it cost? Would it actually work? And what would the ping be like? Let's find out. First, we need to talk about what Wi-Fi actually is and why putting it on the moon is one of the dumbest smart ideas anyone has ever had. A standard home Wi-Fi router operates on the 2.4 or 5 GHz frequency band. It has an effective range of approximately 30 to 50 meters indoors and maybe 100 meters outdoors under perfect conditions. The moon is 384,400 kilometers away. That means a single Wi-Fi router on the lunar surface would provide internet coverage to an area roughly the size of a basketball court on a celestial body with a surface area of 37.9 million square kilometers. That is like installing a single streetlight in the Sahara Desert and claiming you have solved darkness. To put this in perspective, to blanket the entire surface of the moon in Wi-Fi coverage using standard routers spaced 100 meters apart, you would need approximately 3.79 billion routers. At roughly $100 per router, that is $379 billion in hardware alone. Before shipping, and the shipping is the part that will actually kill you. Which brings us to the real question. Not can you put a router on the moon, but how much does it cost to put anything on the moon, and more importantly, why would you? SpaceX's Starship is currently the cheapest way to get mass to the moon. A fully fueled Starship can deliver approximately 100 tons of payload to the lunar surface after orbital refueling. Each Starship launch costs roughly $90 million, but a lunar delivery requires multiple launches for orbital refueling. Conservatively, delivering 100 tons to the moon costs about $500 million to $1 billion when you factor in the refueling flights, mission planning, and the fact that your landing pad is a gray wasteland with no roads, no cranes, and no one to sign for the delivery. So delivering a single 5-kilogram Wi-Fi router to the moon costs approximately $25,000 to $50,000 in proportional launch costs. That is the most expensive router installation in human history, and it does not even include a technician visit if something goes wrong, because the technician visit would cost another $500 million. But Musk is not going to put one router on the moon. Musk does not do small. If he is going to give the moon internet, he is going to give the moon real internet. So let us build lunar Starlink. To provide meaningful internet coverage across the lunar surface, you would not use ground-based routers. You would put satellites in lunar orbit, the same way Starlink works around Earth. The moon is smaller than Earth, with a circumference of roughly 10,921 kilometers compared to Earth's 40,075. It also has no atmosphere, which is actually great for signal transmission. A functional lunar Starlink constellation would require roughly 300 to 500 small satellites in low lunar orbit to provide continuous global moon coverage. Each Starlink satellite currently weighs about 800 kilograms for the V to Mini variant. Let's say Musk develops a lunar Starlink variant at the same weight. 500 satellites at 800 kilograms each is 400 tons of satellite hardware. At a manufacturing cost of roughly $500,000 per satellite, based on SpaceX's internal Starlink production costs, that is $250 million in satellite manufacturing. Basically a rounding error. The real cost is getting 400 tons to lunar orbit. At roughly $5,000 to $10,000 per kilogram for lunar delivery via Starship, that is $2 to $4 billion just in launch and delivery costs. Add in-ground relay infrastructure on the lunar surface, which you need for any future moon base to actually connect to the network, plus a deep space communication link back to Earth's existing ground stations. And the total cost of lunar Starlink comes to roughly $5 to $8 billion. Elon Musk is worth $840 billion. Lunar Starlink would cost him less than 1% of his net worth. He could build the moon's entire internet infrastructure for less than what he paid for Twitter. And that is the moment this stops being funny and starts being genuinely interesting. Here is the problem nobody on Earth cares about yet, but will care about within the next 20 years. NASA's Artemis program is planning to establish a permanent human presence on the moon by the 2030s. China's lunar program is building toward a crewed base at the moon's south pole. India, Japan, and the European Space Agency all have active lunar programs. The moon is about to get very busy, and every single one of those programs will need communications infrastructure. Astronauts need to talk to Earth, rovers need to transmit data, scientific instruments need to upload results, habitats need to stream monitoring data back to mission control. Right now, every lunar mission handles communications individually using dedicated deep space antennas and custom-built relay systems. That is like every house on your street building its own cell tower. It works, but it is insanely inefficient and ridiculously expensive. If Musk builds lunar Starlink before anyone else, he does not just own the internet on the moon, he becomes the sole communications provider for every nation, agency, and corporation operating in cislunar space. NASA would have to lease bandwidth from SpaceX. The Chinese Space Agency would have to lease bandwidth from SpaceX, ESA, JAXA, ISRO, all of them. Musk would own the infrastructure that every lunar operation depends on. This is Starlink's business model all over again. Build the network first, become essential, then charge everyone who needs it. Now let's talk about the part that actually breaks your brain. Latency. The moon is 384,400 kilometers from Earth. Light and radio signals travel at 299,790 kilometers per second. That means the absolute minimum one-way latency from the moon to Earth is 1.28 seconds. Round trip is 2.56 seconds. On Earth, a standard Starlink connection has a latency of about 20 to 50 milliseconds. A fiber optic cable gives you 5 to 15 milliseconds. A competitive online gamer considers anything above 80 milliseconds to be unplayable. Lunar Internet has a minimum latency of 2,560 milliseconds. That is 2.56 seconds. Every single click, every page load, every search query has a minimum built-in delay of 2.56 seconds, and that is before you add any processing or routing overhead. You could not make a phone call from the moon without the most awkward pauses in the history of conversation. You could not video chat without it feeling like a hostage negotiation. You could not browse Instagram. You could not check email without wanting to throw your space helmet at the wall. And you absolutely could not play an online game. Your character would be dead 2.56 seconds before you even saw the enemy. This is not a technology problem. This is a physics problem. The speed of light is a hard limit. You cannot fix it with better hardware. You cannot fix it with better software. You cannot fix it with money. The universe itself has decided that real-time communication between the Earth and the Moon will always have a 2.56 second round-trip delay, and no amount of engineering or billionaire ambition can negotiate with the speed of light. Musk can fight regulators. He can fight gravity. He can fight the SEC, but he cannot fight the speed of light. The speed of light does not care about your launch cadence. Now, for communication between locations on the moon itself, Lunar Starlink would be incredible. Moon-based rover, instant. Habitat to science station, milliseconds. The latency problem only exists for the Earth-Moon link. On the moon itself, the network would be fast, seamless, and deeply necessary for any sustained human presence. So the real value of Lunar Starlink is not connecting the moon to your Netflix account. It is connecting everything on the moon to everything else on the moon, and then providing a dedicated, reliable, high-bandwidth pipeline back to Earth for data that does not need to arrive in real time. Science data, telemetry, status reports, geological surveys, video footage for the world's most expensive YouTube channel. Now, let's talk about what goes wrong. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 says that no nation can claim sovereignty over any celestial body. But it says nothing about corporations building communications infrastructure on one. The moment Musk starts launching lunar satellites, every spacefaring nation files a complaint. Who regulates lunar internet? The FCC, the ITU, the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. Nobody knows because nobody has ever had to decide. If Musk builds Lunar Starlink and then starts charging NASA $100 million per year for bandwidth, Congress will be furious. Not because the price is unreasonable, but because a private citizen now controls a piece of infrastructure that a sovereign government depends on for its space program. This is the Starlink problem all over again, but with even higher stakes. During the Ukraine conflict, SpaceX had the ability to enable or restrict Starlink coverage in an active war zone. Now imagine that same dynamic on the moon, where the only communications network is owned by one company. China would absolutely refuse to use a Musk-owned network. They would accelerate their own lunar communications program. Russia would do the same. Within a decade, you would have competing internet constellations around the moon built by rival geopolitical blocs, each refusing to interoperate with the others. Humanity's first extraterrestrial communications network would be fragmented before it even finished construction. We would bring our worst habits to the moon before we even finished unpacking. So, could Elon Musk put a Wi-Fi router on the moon? A single router? Yes. It would cost roughly $50,000 in launch costs, provide internet to an area the size of a basketball court, and serve exactly 0 customers. It would be the most useless piece of technology ever placed on a celestial body. But a full lunar Starlink constellation, also yes. 500 satellites, $5 to $8 billion total, less than 1% of his net worth. The technology exists, the launch vehicle exists. The business case is emerging because every space agency on Earth will need moon-based communications within the next 2 decades. The real question was never whether Musk could give the moon internet. It was whether the moon's internet should belong to one man. And the answer to that is the same answer we keep arriving at with every Musk thought experiment. The math works, the economics work, the monopoly risk is terrifying. And by the time everyone else realizes they should have built it themselves, he is already 500 satellites deep and sending invoices. Elon Musk does not want to put a Wi-Fi router on the moon. He wants to put a toll booth on the future, and the moon just happens to be next in line. I'm David, and welcome to E.T.E. Thanks for watching.